Let's create a Windows Server virtual machine on the Amazon Web Services cloud. So I've got my Learner Lab course open on the right. I've got my instructions that I'm going to follow on the left. So we'll go through it and talk about what's going on. First things first, I'm going to start my Learner Lab environment, start it up. It should take just about a minute. The very first time you ever launch it, it takes about 5 minutes. Subsequently, it goes a little bit faster. This should take about 1 minute, but while that's going, I'm just going to pause this video. All right, I only had to pause that video for about 3 seconds because my lab already came up. I see my AWS button is green, so I'll click that, and that will open a new tab, which is the actual Amazon Web Services Cloud. So here I can manage all of my stuff. So here I am on the home page. I've got a few links to useful services. There's a lot going on, but don't worry. We're just going to use a very small subset of the Amazon cloud. We need to go to the Elastic Compute Cloud Service. That's EC2. And you can see, if you look closely on my screen and on your screen, I can see EC2 right there in the middle of the screen. I also, at the top, I see EC2. Both of those links would work. If you don't happen to have those links available because you haven't used them yet, in the search bar, if we search for EC2, we will find the same service, EC2, Virtual Servers in the Cloud. So I'll just click that one. Doesn't matter which one you click, but that'll take us right there. And it'll kind of give me a status of what's going on. I'm going to close that little box right there. Notice I have no instances running. I haven't launched anything yet. So we're there. We're in the EC2 service. First thing we need to do is we're going to create a Windows Server security group. So let's find the option to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to scroll down here on the left. We've got instances, images, Elastic Block Store. Then we've got network and security. So I'll go ahead and click on security groups. We'll have a default security group. We're not going to use that one, but it's there. We're not going to touch it. That's fine. What we want to do is we want to create our own one. So I'm going to click Create Security Group, and it'll pop up the form that I have to fill out to actually create this security group. First thing we have to do is give it a name. So according to my instructions, we should name it last name. I'll call it Mark Wordson Windows Server SG. It's just something for us to recognize it. So that SG is for security group. And we do have to give it a description that's not optional. So I'm going to say this will be Windows Server RDP. RDP is the Remote Desktop Protocol, and ICMP. That's the Internet Control Message Protocol for troubleshooting and testing connectivity. So we're good there. Good in that upper section. Leave the VPC, that's the Virtual Private Cloud. It's our computer network where we're putting this. Don't touch that. Just leave it, whatever it says. Now we have two groups of rules. We have inbound rules and outbound rules. So that's traffic coming into your machine, your computer, and traffic leaving this machine that we will eventually create. We are not going to touch the outbound rules. That basically means that when we create a virtual machine in the cloud, it can do whatever it wants. It can connect to any website. It can connect to any service it wants to. It's unrestricted. The inbound rules, though, we are going to tweak those because by default, if we don't have any rules that allow traffic to come in, all traffic gets blocked. If everything is blocked, that means we can't even connect to our own machine. So I'm going to follow my own instructions, make sure I'm keeping pace. I'm going to click Add Rule under the inbound rules. So add a rule. Pops up this little form right here. And so I have to tell it, okay, what kind of traffic are we going to allow? So under this type here, I'm going to scroll down. It should be in the list. Where is it? RDP is in the list. You can't just type RDP and it will filter in there. RDP, that's the remote desktop protocol. Once I select RDP, it fills in the protocol and the port range for me, so I don't have to touch any of that. But the source type, here is where we're going to select, like where are we going to allow connections from? Because we could only allow connections from one computer or one network. We are going to choose anywhere IPv4. So this means anybody on the internet could try to connect to this virtual machine that we will create. So when we select anywhere Internet Protocol version 4, it will fill in the source for us. So this 0.0.0.0/0 basically means everywhere. And that's fine. There's a little warning here. They're like, are you sure about that? Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, for us, it's going to be okay. As long as you don't give somebody your password, your virtual machine is going to be okay. Now, let's add another rule, and that'll create another little form for us to fill out. Add rule, so inbound rule 2. This time, we will choose all ICMP IP version 4. Later in the course, we'll talk about ping. When you ping, you test connectivity to a computer. This allows us to test connectivity. So the source, again, will be anywhere IPv4. It'll fill in that source for us, 0.0.0.0/0. And that's good. So we're done configuring it. So just to quickly review, we gave the security group a name, we gave it a description, we did not change the virtual private cloud, and we added 2 inbound rules. One for RDP, the remote desktop protocol, with the source type anywhere IPv4. It filled in that source for us. And another rule, all ICMP IPv4. Again, the source is anywhere IPv4, and it filled in 0.0.0.0/0. Make sure I got all the right zeros there. And that's looking good. Outbound rules, we didn't change anything. So we're allowing all traffic to any destination on the internet, which is fine. Tags, all that's fine. So when I click create security group, it'll go pretty quick, and it is done. It's created. So here we are, it created this security group. It gives us that random identifier for us, which is totally fine. But here we can inspect the rules. So in this security group, my Markwardson Windows Server SG security group, I can click on inbound rules. It's already selected, so nothing just changed there. But I see inbound, I've got RDP and ICMP from 0.0.0.0/0. All that's good. I could click on my outbound rules and just take a look that I'm allowing all traffic out. That's good. So security groups are for securing network traffic into our virtual machines. All this is looking good. So we don't actually have a virtual machine yet. We're going to go do that right now. I'm going to scroll up, and we're still in the EC2 service. We were just in the security groups section. We're going to jump up almost all the way to the top and take a look at instances. I don't have any instances, so our virtual machine will become an instance. I'm going to click that orange button to launch an instance. And here's where there's quite a few configuration options. So we'll go through it step by step. It's going to be just fine. First thing we got to do, give it a name. So I'm going to name this Markwardson Windows Server. Put your last name instead of Markwardson. And I'm going to scroll down, and we have to tell it, okay, every computer needs an operating system. What operating system do we want to use? Well, in this case, we're going to use Windows. I'm going to click on Windows, and it'll recommend, or the default option for me right here is Microsoft Windows Server 2025 base. That's what I want. So I'm not going to change that. If for whatever reason you're going through this and that is not the one that's showing up, make sure that you select Microsoft Windows Server 2025 base. I'm just going to click this drop-down list to see what other versions are available just for funsies. And there's one that might look appealing. It's Core Base. Well, the Core Base does not come with a graphical user interface, so we don't want to select that. There's also Windows Server 2022, but that's older. We don't need the older one. We want the new one. We can even go back in time to 2019 or 2016. So there are a lot of different options there, but we do want Microsoft Windows Server 2025 base. All that's good. So now we've selected the operating system, the instance type. That's how much hardware do we want to give to this virtual machine. So our virtual machine is going to be running inside the Amazon Web Services data center. They've got a lot of computing capacity that they're renting to us. We can allocate more of their hardware to our virtual machine. The more hardware we allocate, the more we're going to pay for it. So we have to balance it out. There are a lot of options here, and some of them won't work as well as other ones. I'm going to give you a good one. If you type m7a, we want m7a dot medium. The differences here, some of the differences between all these options is it running on an Intel CPU or is it running on an AMD CPU? And how are those CPUs shared? How does Amazon manage its infrastructure? It can be kind of confusing figuring out which one to pick here, but for this, just trust me on this, choose m7a.medium. And just notice the cost here. So Windows pricing, it's going to cost us 10.3 cents per hour, which is fine. Again, you're not going to be charged for this in the Learner Lab environment. That just every hour that it runs, it goes against your credit. So if this runs for 4 hours, it charges 40 cents, which is not a problem. You won't run out of credits. So that's our hardware's good. That'll give us one CPU and 4 gigabytes of memory. This particular environment is running with a very powerful AMD CPU, so one CPU is going to be just fine. All right, the key pair. So this is for security. We need to select a key pair, and there should only be one, and it'll be called VOC key. That's the Vocarium key, so go ahead and select that. Not too much to decide there. The network settings, here's where we have to make some more substantive changes. So I'm going to click Edit at the top right of that section because it doesn't show us all the options we need unless we click Edit. So I'll click Edit. And our VPC, don't touch it. You should only have one, and that's fine. For the subnet, I'm going to click that drop-down list. And the important thing here is to look at the availability zones. We want to choose the availability zone in the US-East-1A. That's like basically picking our data center. And it does matter. Let's pick 1A. Why 1A? Well, because that m7a hardware is available in that particular data center, and we're going to set an IP address in that particular network. So that's fine. Just as long as it says US East 1A, you're good to go. Auto assign a public IP address, we'll keep that as enabled. That's good. We want to select an existing security group because we just made one, so we might as well use it. So I'm going to click Select Existing Security Group. and I'm going to click that drop down list, and I just made that Markwardson Windows Server SG security group, so I'm going to check that box. And so the security settings in that security group will be applied to this new virtual machine when it's created. Now I need to expand the advanced network configuration. And for the primary IP address, we need to change it to be 172.31.16.50. This is a private IP address. When you boot up this virtual machine, it'll have a public IP address and a private IP address. Every time you start up your lab, this virtual machine will get a new public IP address, but this private IP address, this labeled primary here, will always be the same. So for us, that's good. We can ignore all the other stuff there. I'm going to scroll down, and under advanced details, we just need to change one more thing. The identity and access management instance profile. We are going to select the lab instance profile. This is just helps the Amazon Cloud manage this virtual machine. Select that, and we're good to go. So really quick, we've configured everything. We just have to click that Launch Instance button, but I'll just quickly review all the changes I made. So I named this Markwardson Windows Server. I chose Windows as the operating system, and the version of Windows I want is Microsoft Windows Server 2025 Base. I'm going to keep scrolling down. The instance type, that's the hardware. We want the m7a.medium, which gives us 1 CPU and 4 gigs of memory. Our key pair is the VOC key. In our network, our subnet should say Availability Zone US East 1A. We selected an existing security group called your last name Windows Server SG. And in the advanced network configuration, we changed the primary IP to 172.31.16.50. And last but not least, under the advanced details, we chose the lab instance profile for the identity and access management instance profile. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and click Launch Instance. And it's going to tell me success. Success, sort of. If I click the link to go to my instances, use that breadcrumb, I can see, let me click this refresh button. So click that refresh button and you should see this coming up. It says it's running, but it's like getting warmed up. It's not really running just yet. Notice that status check says initializing. That's fine. I'll make this screen a little bit bigger so that we can view that. This is going to take a couple of minutes, and that's fine. I'm going to pause the video. This will take maybe 3 minutes for this to get booting, so we don't have to watch paint dry. So I'm going to click the refresh button after a couple minutes, and still initializing. So I'm just going to wait patiently. Basically what's happening right now is in a data center in Virginia, a virtual computer is being created for me. That virtual computer is really just a file that lives on Amazon's hardware. So that file's being created and configured, like it's setting the IP address, it's setting the security group, it's setting the administrative username, all that good stuff. Takes a little bit the first time, but now I see my status checks have passed. So that means it's ready to go. So let's connect to it. So I'm going to check the box next to that one and only instance that I have, And once I check it, I can click the connect button, and I want to go to the RDP client. Let me make sure, following along on the left. I'm getting ahead of myself just a little bit. So we check the box, then we're going to click connect, and there are a few different options. We're not going to use Session Manager or the EC2 serial console. We will choose the Remote Desktop Protocol client. Why? Because it's the only one that's going to work for us in the Learner Lab environment. So we can download this remote desktop file. You're going to have to do this every time you launch your lab. You'll have to come here and download a new version of this file. And I'm going to just throw this onto my desktop just for quick and easy access. Save that file. Before I open that file though, I need to do something. That computer has a password. I don't know what the password is, but I can get that password. How do I get that password? Well, there's a get password link here. So I'm going to click get password. It's not going to show it to me just yet. It's going to ask me to upload my private key file. So how do I get that file? Well, that's the file. If we go back to the Learner Lab environment, once you start your lab, you can look at the AWS details. It's this PEM file. So if I need to re-download this file, I can do that now. So I'll click download PEM, and I'll just save it to my desktop. You can always come back and re-download it. It's going to be the same file every single time for a Learner Lab course. Save. So I've got those two files now on my desktop. So I'm going to go back to the AWS console and upload my private key file. And I stuck it on my desktop, so I'm going to go look on my desktop. There's my labs user.pem file. I'm going to open that up. And it should look like this. It basically just pastes that content into this web form here. And I can use that to decrypt my password. And there it is in clear text. Now you can see my password right now. If you knew the IP address of my virtual machine and you have my password, you could log in to my virtual machine. So you do want to protect this password. So why am I showing it to you? Well, by the time you watch this video, I will have terminated or deleted this virtual machine, so I'm not worried about showing you this password right here. But I'm going to click copy, password, copied. You could save this in your password manager, or just copy it to your clipboard to use right now. Now in my downloads, I've got that remote desktop file. You could go to your desktop and just double click on that file, or if you got it in your download history right now, you could just click that last name Windows Server RDP file, and this will open up in the remote desktop program. So it's like, are you sure you want to connect to this computer? Yes. So don't ask me again for this computer. Connect. Now it's saying, all right, you need your credentials. I'm just going to Control V paste because I just pasted that password there. Don't type it out. Just paste it in there. I mean, if I show it, it'll match. Yeah, the AIF password in my case. And I'm going to click OK. Are you sure you want to connect? Yeah, go ahead and connect. Yes. And it is establishing a connection. So it's taken over my screen right now. So I'm going to restore it down so I can resize it. So I'm going to, you don't have to run that in full screen. It might make you a little bit nervous. This is my virtual machine in the cloud right now. I will try to resize it so it's quite big. It's going to take a little bit the first time. Like anytime you boot up a new computer, it's going to check for updates. It's going to do a lot of stuff. So for a couple of minutes, this computer might seem kind of slow, and all that's fine. Because the screen resolution is so big, I've got to use the scroll bars on the right and the bottom of the screen to see everything. But the interface in Windows Server 2025 with the graphical user interface is similar to Windows 11. So you can explore at this point. Everything's working just fine. You can check out the start menu, see what applications are here. One of the biggest things that's different about the server version from the desktop version of Windows is this application called the Server Manager. You can go ahead and open it up just to take a look around. But feel free to explore this computer. Again, it's going to be a little bit slow. Don't show this message again. I do not like this message. But we could configure this server. Like we could turn this into a web server. We could turn this into a file server. We could do a lot of things with this server. Most of what we're going to be doing is really kind of treating it like a desktop computer, but that's all right. It can be kind of confusing when all these applications are so big. If I click this X, that will close the Server Manager application. If I click the X at the very top right, that will close my connection, which is not the end of the world. It would just be kind of annoying. You could always reopen it. One thing I'll note here, a couple minutes after you log in for the first time, you'll see the desktop background is stamped with your public IP address, the private IP address, some unique identifiers for this computer. We've got the availability zone where we stuck this, how much RAM we have, all of that good stuff. And we've got a pretty good network connection, up to 12.5 gigabits per second. So this is good. We'll be using this virtual machine a decent amount. You can use it kind of like a desktop computer. But again, this computer lives in the Amazon Web Services data center. So let's say that you're done. What do you do next? You're happy with your virtual machine. It seems to be working correctly. What next? So if I disconnect, I'll close the X now. We actually do want to close it out. It says your remote session will be disconnected. Okay, I like that. That's what I want to happen. Okay. Now, if I come back to the Amazon Web Services console, if I use the breadcrumbs and I go to my instances now, and look at my list of running instances, I still only have one. And if I click refresh just to make sure everything's up to date, it says it's still running. Now I disconnected, but that virtual machine is still running in the Amazon Web Services cloud, which is totally fine. The status checks are still good. But if I don't want it to be running anymore because it's charging me 10 whole cents an hour, I can stop this virtual machine, which will stop almost all charges. Amazon will charge me a couple of cents per day to store that file in their data center, but it's not something we should worry about. I'll uncheck that box. I could check that instance, and then come to instance state, and I could stop instance. This is like putting it to sleep. Any files I created, any configuration changes I made on that virtual machine will still be there when I start it up again. It just won't be running. So do instance states, I'll stop instance. And click stop. And if I refresh this, yeah, there it goes, automatically. It says it's stopping, which is totally fine. While it's stopping, I'm gonna switch back to the learner lab. If I click end lab, that would automatically stop everything. If I had 5 instances running, it would stop all 5. With this timer, by default, you've got 4 hours to work with this lab at a time. You can always extend that time by clicking Start Lab again. It will just add another 4 hours. But let's say you forgot to stop your instances or you forgot to end lab. Don't worry, after 4 hours, it would just put everything to sleep automatically. You would just be charged, a couple cents more for the excess time when you left your computer, but the lab was still running. So I'll refresh this and it says it stopped. Okay, so let's say you come back in a couple days later, you're ready to start using this computer again. I can come in here and click Instant State and Start, and this will start booting up. So I'm going to do that right now. Start instance. So it's going to start booting up, but it's not going to be ready right away. It'll be pretty quick, but it takes a little bit. Notice it says it's running, but the status checks still says it's initializing. While that's going on, I'm going to let that percolate a little bit. If I come to the Learner Lab, when you first come in, if you have any instances and you log into the Learner Lab and you click Start Lab, it's going to boot those up automatically. It's going to try to start all of them by default. So having to start them, you won't have to start them very often. More likely you'll have to stop them. We'll see how long this takes. It should go pretty quick. Creating it the first time takes longer, but this time it should go faster because it's already configured everything. It's just got to boot up. So it'll take about 2-ish minutes, ballpark. I'll pause the video anyway so we don't have to wait. All right, that took longer than I would have liked, but perhaps I'm just impatient. So it took a couple of minutes to boot up, but okay. So it took a little bit, but it's up and going. I want to show you now how we would reconnect to it, because if I go to my downloads and I find that remote desktop protocol file and I try to open it, it's going to attempt to connect, but this is not going to work. But why not? I just worked like just a couple minutes ago. Well, every time you start one of these instances, it'll get a new public IP address. And that public IP address is part of that RDP file. So it's a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. So what do we have to do? We have to go to the connect option again, choose RDP client, download that remote desktop protocol file again. I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to overwrite the old one because the old one is broken and will never work again. So I'll click save. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I do. Okay, I replaced it. Now I'm going to open up this one, the new one. Yep, I want to connect to it. And I'm going to paste in that password. Same password. I already had it on my clipboard, but you could get that password again. Oh, bless me. I copied something else to my clipboard, so that's fine. I'll click get password. Upload my private key file. The password will be the same, but you have to make sure you've got it on your actual clipboard for it to work. Copy that password, find that RDP option. So everything's fixable. Don't worry. If something goes wrong, everything can be fixed. Connect, yes. And here I've got my computer back up and running again, and should go faster this time, faster than before. Yep, I'm back up and going. If I created any files on this computer, those files would be there. If I check my desktop background, I've got a new public IP address, but I've got the same 172.31.16.50 private IP address that we set previously. So we're good. So I'm going to click this X, disconnect again. Okay. I'll come back to the Learner Lab now, shut everything down. So I'm going to click End Lab. Do I really want to end it? Yeah. Yes, I do. I'm done for right now. If I come back to the Amazon Web Services web console and I look at my instances, I'll refresh this. Notice that it says it's stopping. So I didn't stop this instance from within the Amazon Web Services console. I just stopped my lab, and stopping the lab stops all those instances. So I'll be ready to go. So next time I'm ready to start using that virtual machine again, I would come into the Learner Lab, click Start Lab, wait for the light to go green. Once it goes green, click that button to open my tab, come to my instances, click Connect, download that new remote desktop protocol file, open it up, paste in my password, and I can pick up right where I left off. So this is the real cloud. This is not a toy. This is what actual Fortune 500 companies use to create large computing infrastructures. Instead of putting servers in a data center physically on their company campus, more and more companies are starting to put servers in the Amazon cloud or the Microsoft cloud or the Google or IBM or Oracle cloud, and they're letting those cloud providers manage that infrastructure. And so we don't have to buy any computer hardware. We're renting that. This one, we're renting it for about 10 cents an hour, which is fairly affordable. It's a perfect fit for what we need it to do. So that's a brief introduction to creating security groups and Windows Server instances in the Amazon cloud. Hopefully you feel comfortable creating instances, connecting to them, and shutting everything down.